Hello, I'm Irma Baker. Welcome to our show. If you're watching us today and you have the volume turned way up high, I think you're going to be especially interested in today's program. And we'll get started with that just after we hear from our sponsor.
RSVP of Summit County has been making a difference in our community since 1972. RSVP volunteers are increasing the quality of life by participating in programs and organizations that provide important services to the community. RSVP matches personal interests and skills with opportunities to serve. If you're interested in adding more meaning to your life and improving the lives of others, please call 330-253-4597 extension 166.
Welcome back. Our guests today are Pamela Pearson, who is a Title IV specialist, and Sharon Moritz. Sharon is actually with our RSVP TV crew, but she has a special interest in today's topic. And what is that topic? That topic is captioned phones. So Pamela, so nice to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And Sharon, how nice to see you in front of the camera instead of behind the camera like you usually are.
Well, thank you. It is a change for me.
And I think that our topic today turned out to be a change for you and your family as well.
Yes.
And let me tell our audience a little bit about what Pamela does. In fact, Pamela, I'm going to let you tell us what you do.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Pamela Pearson. I'm a Title IV Americans with Disabilities Act specialist, and I reach out to communities and organizations and inform them what their civil right is to have a caption device if they have any form of hearing loss. And so we reach out to folks and then we provide the phones for people. So that's the beginning.
Considering how many people have some form of hearing loss, certainly being able to hear on the telephone is something that keeps them in touch with the outside world. Do you have any statistics on just how many people are affected by hearing loss?
Absolutely. In the United States, approximately 48 million people have some form of hearing deficit. That means about 20% of the population. When you look at age as a predictor of hearing loss, and as you look at a person getting older, then of course that rate and that statistic is a lot higher. In fact, we found, and this comes through the National Institutes of Health, that when a person is between 65 and 74 years of age, there's a 25% chance that they either have a disability in one or both ears, and that goes up to 50% after the age 75. So considering our population age and that there are hearing deficits, filling in everyday life with being able to hear on the telephone helps us stay independent. And I think we'd all agree that staying independent is the name of the game.
Well, it certainly is, because there's so much available to people now that to be confined because you can't hear, or to be uncomfortable and not be able to really enjoy what's out there. But we're talking specifically today about something called captioned phones, which I had never heard about until Sharon told me about it. What is a captioned phone?
Well, let me explain it, and of course Mrs. Moritz knows it well. It's a regular phone. You talk like you normally talk, but if you miss something, you can look down and see the words of what the other person is saying. Isn't that cool?
Oh yes, definitely. And so this is not a teletype or one of those machines where you have to type in your conversation?
No, this is a regular phone. So that helps people make that transition of using what may be their cell phone or their home phone that they can't hear very well on anymore to using a regular phone. It does go up to 50 decibels, so it has adjustments for tone and for volume. So it helps people fill in that space because we know that words truly matter. They really do.
Well, you've mentioned that to me before when we were getting ready to start our conversation today. You really made a point of saying words matter. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. I represent Clear Captions. Clear Captions is a company that is federally certified by the FCC to provide the captioning phones. So when I'm reaching out to folks, we want them to know that going from having a hearing deficit to a hearing aid is just one part of learning how to hear better or being able to. The caption phones fill in that space. It allows people, as you mentioned, to be more socially connected and also to feel that they have a little bit more control about their day-to-day life. So it does help fill in that puzzle of hearing loss or hearing deficit that people have.
Well, speaking of that, it seems that medical costs and healthcare costs are a real big issue right now. What costs are involved with captioned phones?
Well, thank you for asking. This is probably one of the nicest parts of my job when people find out that the caption phone is available. Have you ever heard of the Americans with Disabilities Act?
The ADA?
Yes,
yeah,
the ADA.
Yes, I have.
Well, it has 5 titles. Title 4, which is what I'm a specialist in, says that all telecommunication companies have to collect a fraction of their fee, put it into a fund, and that's what pays for the phones and for Clear Captions representatives like myself to install the phones. So it's actually our civil right to have a caption phone at any time we have hearing loss, and we've already paid for it. Title 4 was signed by Ronald Reagan in 1990. So we've been putting money into that fund since that time. And at any time we have hearing loss, we have our right to get the phone. It's not based on age, it's not based on income, it's based on hearing loss. So that's the really wonderful thing. There is no charge for the phone because it's our right and we've already paid for the phone.
Well, how do you qualify for a captioned phone?
It's a wonderful thing. If you have any form of hearing deficit, you're going to qualify for the captioned phone. And let me just explain what I mean by hearing deficit. A lot of folks have hearing aids, so obviously that's a hearing deficit. You can have a hearing aid in one or both ears. We also install phones for people who have implants. They're becoming more popular as our population ages and that becomes available. But a lot of folks have hearing deficits and don't have hearing aids. I think, we know folks that have hearing deficits, but they're not to the point of getting a hearing aid or don't have one. So having a hearing aid is just one area to qualify. But if you have a hard time hearing on the phone, if you've heard someone say to you, "What? Could you repeat that? It sounds like you're mumbling," or they simply don't answer the phone anymore because they can't hear you, then that's going to be someone that will qualify.
Do you have to go through any kind of qualification process?
In terms of my specialization or in terms of the phone?
The eligibility for,
Sure.
Well, I guess for the caption service. Do you
Sure.
need to have a special phone for it, or can you use it with other devices?
Well, those are 2 questions, so let me start with the first one.
Okay.
What we do is when we reach out to communities and to organizations, we ask folks simply, do you have a hard time hearing on the phone? And quite often a spouse, a loved one, a caregiver will also contact us and say, my sweetie pie really can't hear me anymore and she can't talk to her grandchildren anymore. Could we see about getting a caption phone? So the first thing we do is find out that a person has some form of hearing deficit with or without a hearing aid. If they have, then they will qualify. In terms of documentation, we install the phone. You do need to have a landline and to have internet or Wi-Fi access. And then we have one form that we fill out that will help document their hearing loss. And that's a very simple process. We have a part of our team that follows up on that. So it really is a streamlined process. And just to answer your second question, the last part was?
The last part was, can you use captioning with other devices without having the landline connected phone? Because I know a lot of people today don't have landlines anymore. They're using cell phones.
Correct. We do have an app at our website, clearcaptions.com, for mobile phones. But the benefit of having a landline and a phone connected by internet is that when you're in your home and in a comfortable environment where you have control over turning off other devices like the television, or closing the door to a loud lawnmower or outside industrial noise, then you're going to get more out of your hearing experience. The goal of the caption phone is to fill in the spot where we can't hear. So it's not meant to replace any kind of teletype for a person who's completely deaf. It's meant to fill in that space to have what we call a normal conversation with someone. Now, the two big benefits that people experience with this phone, and maybe Mrs. Moritz will explain it to us too from her experience, it does save the messages with the words. And I have to say that when people find that out, they'll call me a few days or a week later and say, I didn't realize that I stopped getting messages because I didn't want to handle it anymore. I didn't want to manage it. Now I get my messages.
Well, let's turn to you, Sharon. And you have captioning in your household because your husband has a hearing deficit.
Yes.
So how did you hear about captioning, and what really led you to do it?
Well, first of all, when they have the health fairs here in the senior centers, a lot of times there's a representative from Caption Phones or that are here. So I first heard about them then. But when we realized that we wanted to really get one, was my husband, our neighbor, has one. And my husband, was up there and saw his and saw how great it was and how well they liked it. And and Dave had trouble hearing. The family and whoever's talking to him, I could hear him say, what? It's hard for the person talking to you as well as the person that can't hear, who can't hear, because they're struggling both directions trying to speak to that person, and that person on the other end's trying to hear. So this was an ideal solution for Dave, and it's so wonderful because if you think you heard something wrong, you can watch on the phone and see just what that person said. You can look at your captioning window on the telephone and see what they're so you're not talking about another subject other than what they are, because that can happen sometimes when people, especially when they're leaving, they're talking about numbers and figures and just plain conversation. Sometimes, I know I've heard Dave different times answer something that they didn't ask. But anyhow, I do get amused by it, but it's not amusing to the person that it's happening to. And this has been a wonderful answer. Yeah.
Well, Sharon, how long have you and Dave had the phone?
We've just had it about 3 weeks, Pamela. Yeah, about 3 weeks, and he uses it. That's what he uses. He doesn't even really go to the other telephones unless he's downstairs or out in the garage. We have a telephone there. But if he's in the living area, he goes to that telephone. That's the one he uses.
Do you find him using the phone more now that he has the caption phone, or more eager to answer the phone?
Yeah. He likes to talk on the telephone. Dave does. So, but yes, he's more comfortable with it. And actually, our daughter and our grandchildren are happy with it as well, because now they can tell Grandpa something one time, and it's not, because it is a struggle to speak to somebody and have to repeat it several times, and so that's eliminated for Dave. So it's a wonderful thing.
It's really been a benefit to your family to have it. It sounds like just 3 weeks and you're already all high about it.
Enthused about it, yes. And if you want me to say something more, it's mainly for your hearing, but also if your vision, you know, if you have trouble hearing and your vision also is a problem, you can increase the prints on the phone. You can increase, and it has a big, you know, large number dialing pad. And so it just makes things easier all around. And a lot of times, not that I'm lumping everybody, because there are young people who may have a disability hearing, but a lot of older people also have trouble seeing. So it really is beneficial for your eyesight as well, even though it's not, you know, advertised. You don't, that's not how you qualify for it.
But one of the advantages of the smartphones or cell phones that so many people have is that you can keep a list of the phone numbers you call constantly. I'm wondering, is that built into this phone as well?
That is, and Dave, yes, there's a directory, a telephone directory. Is that what it's?
Yes, and if I could speak about the features.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I'm so glad you're using it fully.
Took over.
Well, first of all, I appreciate Mrs. Moritz using the features, because as you become more comfortable with the features, you realize the benefit to them. It does have quite a few features. This is the latest caption technology. It has a phone book, and I always give, I believe, good instructions on how to set that up, and I assist with that at the beginning. The phone book allows you to save a person's name and number, and so there's two benefits to that. One is when the person calls you, you can see clearly their name, and so you can see if that's the person that you want to talk to at that moment. The other thing is, for any time that you want to call someone, they're in the phone book, you simply touch it and it will dial it or put it on speakerphone. So that's a real nice benefit, because, and I do recommend for seniors in particular, that if you have numbers on your cell phone, do write them down on a piece of paper, because sometimes cell phones don't operate when we need them to, or something happens. And so you can have the caption phone with those numbers listed. Now, the phone book is one important feature. The other feature that people really like a lot, I do get feedback on this, is that it has a speaker function. The speaker function will go up to 50 decibels. And for people who are in mobility devices like walkers, wheelchairs, even canes, they can pull right up to the phone, press the speaker button, and have a conversation. So I get a lot of positive feedback about that feature. It has a few other features. It has a mute button. It also has an easy accessible keypad if you need to go through a queuing system like One for English or something like that, or to call in a prescription. You can hear it and see it very clearly. And then the other feature I think that people appreciate is that the keypad is quite large. So you can see the numbers very visibly. And you're right, Mrs. Moritz, a lot of people with hearing deficits also have sight deficits. The phone is screened for persons with hearing deficits, but I have quite a lot of folks to say, wow, that's great. I can see it because the print or the font size is large enough for me to read it. So those are some of the features of the phone.
Well, one thing Sharon mentioned, and you mentioned it too, that this Title IV is not age-specific, that anyone who has a hearing deficit is entitled, actually that's what those titles are, they're entitlements, that they are entitled to captioning service, not to this specific phone or anything, but to the service itself. I'm thinking there are, as Sharon mentioned, younger people who have hearing deficits, and they're very often in the workforce. Is there anything that allows them to use it at work?
Well, if they have a question about where the phone could physically be located, of course we'll help them discern that and see if we can provide that. I have been able to do that. And so what we find, and thank you for bringing that point out, a lot of people associate hearing loss with only seniors. But there are a lot of folks that were born with a congenital defect in their hearing. There are folks who experience industrial accidents. The one that comes to mind the most, we do reach out to a lot of veterans, folks who served tours where there have been blasts and situations where they have had their hearing damaged by trauma. We serve that population. We have retired railroad workers and people that have worked in occupations with hearing casualties, so to speak, in that way. So those people really get excited about the phone, and they don't know about it, and then to find out that they've already qualified for it because of the hearing and that there's no cost to the phone, they get pretty excited about it.
You know what? I just thought, excuse me, of another question that people might have, and that's, what about privacy? Is this something where there is an intermediary person who is typing the message, or how does it work?
Sure. Clear Captions, being federally certified by the FCC, does have live captioners that provide the captioning on the phone. And for those of you who've seen captioning on a television, you probably don't use it very often because it doesn't make any sense. It tends to have big gaps. They leave out entire paragraphs, and you might just look at it to see who the person is speaking, but you don't use it to communicate. So the live captioning has shown statistically to be more accurate and more responsive in the communication. And normally the captioning happens within about 2 to 5 seconds. It could be shorter depending on the conversation. Some people speak slowly and some people speak rapidly, so that might become a factor. But there is a live captioner, and they are, the FCC protects the content of those conversations, and we get a lot of positive feedback of the accuracy of the captioning.
Certainly accuracy is a primary concern with that, and certainly Sharon and her husband have been very pleased with it.
Yes, yes.
Before we get too close to the end of the program, this time has just been flying by, how do people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing to do would be to either give me a call or send me an email. My name is Pamela Pearson, and my email is pamelapearson@clearcaptions.com. I believe it's on the bottom of the screen there. And my telephone number direct is 216-645-5738. We do serve all 50 states. If you know of someone in another state, or a friend or a loved one that you think could benefit from the caption phone, feel free to give me a call and I'll get back to you, or someone else will, with a contact in your area. And those two ways would be the best way to contact me. And I have a feeling that if you're in the Akron, Canton, Youngstown area, that you might also get referrals from friends. We do have a lot of customers and satisfied clients in the area.
Well, one other thing that I do want to mention to our audience, and that is that if you're watching the show and you didn't have a chance to write down the number or the email address, you know you can go online to WCTV. Just put that in your search, WCTV, Wadsworth, Ohio, and you'll be able to find the website, and from the website you can go to WCTV. So if you want to look back for a referral to any of our shows, we are online there and you'll be able to find it. In fact, it's on the screen right now where you go to find our show. And Pamela, I want to ask you one more thing. Is there anything else you want to tell our audience in the last minute or so that we have left?
Yes. If you feel that you have a hard time hearing, don't hold back for reaching out for services, for reaching out to us here at Clear Captions for a captioning phone, because words really do matter. And I think we would all agree again that independence and having communication with others and having control over our own appointments and our schedule helps people have a fuller life. So any way that we can help, we'd be more than happy to do that here at Clear Captions.
One thing that I picked up from what you were saying is that you help people with the installation and with the use. So you actually, it's not just, okay, you have clear captioning now, have fun. What do you actually do in terms of training?
We have a very active and professional support staff. And we do go into the home, we install the phone, of course there's no charge. We give instructions, and we've installed phones from the age, I believe, of 16. I've installed a phone all the way up to the age 96. So if you're older and you don't use a computer, no worries. We will make sure that you know how to use the phone very carefully before we leave. We do test calls. And then if you need any help, if you have any questions or refreshment about the features, we have customer support 7 days a week.
Pamela, it's been wonderful having you with us. Sharon, all the best to you and Dave with using the service. And all of you, I hope this has been helpful and informative for you and that you've enjoyed our show today. Do remember our sponsor. Our sponsor is RSVP, the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, and that's part of Mature Services. Have a wonderful day.
Since 1971, RSVP has been matching volunteers' talents to community needs. RSVP is affiliated with the Corporation for National and Community Service, a national organization that supports service and volunteering through grant-funded projects. Volunteers organize neighborhood watch programs, tutor children, renovate homes, plant community gardens, assist victims of natural disasters, and serve their communities in many other ways. RSVP offers maximum flexibility and choice to its volunteers as it matches the personal interests and skills of Americans 55 and older with opportunities to serve their communities. If you're interested in adding more meaning to your life and improving the lives of others, please call 330-253-4597 extension 166.